Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for April 2, 2024. And in the news this afternoon, father and the son perished in Portland crash. A 6-year-old boy and his 53-year-old father died as a result of injuries they sustained in a two-vehicle crash along the Ferry Hill Main Road in Portland on Easter Monday. The deceased have been identified as Jaden Woolery, a resident of Sherwood Forest, and his father, David Woolery, a resident of Zion Hill, both neighboring communities in Portland. Police reports are that about 10:18 p.m., Woolery was driving a gray Suzuki Swift with Jaden and another little girl as passengers when the driver of a red Toyota Corolla attempted to overtake the Swift, resulting in a collision. Woolery and the two children were taken to hospital where he and the young Jaden were pronounced dead. The other child, who has been identified as Jaden's sister, has been admitted to hospital in stable condition. The driver of the red Corolla has been warned for prosecution. 6 children remain hospitalized following Front Gully crash. 6 children remain hospitalized following Sunday's fatal crash on the Front Gully Main Road in St. Anne. A senior member of staff at the hospital said that the 6 children are among 12 patients from the crash who are still being treated for injuries sustained in the accident, which claimed the life of 49-year-old Suzette Thomas, a housekeeper of Wildman Street in Kingston. The senior member of staff said of the 12 who remain hospitalized, 5 are in critical condition. He further added that 11 patients who were involved in the crash have been treated and released. Police report that minutes to midday on Sunday, a 15-seater Nissan Caravan with 23 persons aboard crashed into an embankment. It is reported that the right front tire of the vehicle blew out, causing the driver to lose control of the motorbus, which collided with a stone wall before overturning. The police were called to the scene and the injured were rushed to hospital. It's understood that the 16 children and the 7 adults were traveling in the vehicle at the time of the accident. 2 children and 1 adult were transferred to Kingston for treatment. It is reported that the passengers were traveling from Kingston to St. Mary on a fun-day trip. Mark X driver killed in Manchester crash. A man died as a result of injuries he sustained when a Toyota Mark X he was driving overturned on the Royal Flat Main Road in Manchester on Easter Monday. Police named the deceased as Ricardo Scale, 21, a resident of Landis Settlement near Royal Flat. A police report said about 7:15 p.m., Scale was driving the motorcar when he failed to negotiate a corner and hit an embankment, causing the vehicle to overturn. He was removed from the mangled car and taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. PNP rejects idea for politicians to select the PATH beneficiaries. The opposition People's National Party is rejecting a recommendation for political representatives to play a role in selecting beneficiaries of the Program of Advancement through Health and Education. This comes after Social Security Minister Pernell Charles Jr. said the suggestion would be taken into consideration. The idea was pitched by Junior Gale, PNP Councillor Caretaker for the Independent City Division, during the Portmore leg of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's PATH Town Hall last Wednesday in St. Catherine. In response, Social Security Minister Pernell Charles Jr. welcomed the proposal as aspects of the state welfare program are now under review. The minister cautioned, however, that the move would spark up public concerns about potentially politicizing PATH, adding that any decision taken would prioritize the program's objectivity and integrity. But a PNP spokesperson on social transformation and social protection, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, says that the country cannot afford the risk of political victimization by inserting councillors and members of parliament in the assessment and allocation of social benefits through PATH. She says that the program, which serves the most vulnerable, can be strengthened without central and local government representatives acting as intermediaries. The opposition spokesperson argues that social workers are better equipped for the task than political representatives. She says PATH offices should be mandated and resourced to accurately maintain a list of all benefits, which would then be shared with representatives so that they can actively refer constituents to the system as a partner in the process. Mrs. Duncan Sutherland further argues that the recent utterances from former Cabinet Minister Everald Warmington make it clear that some MPs believe that the state resources are theirs to parcel out along political lines. She says while that kind of behavior is not a reflection of all politicians, leaders must protect vulnerable citizens from the risk of being starved of social benefits because of the misguided loyalties of a few. Care of 59 Haitian orphans won't burden Jamaican taxpayers, says Mustard Seed. Executive Director of Mustard Seeds International, Father Garvin Augustine, says that the cost of care for the 59 Haitian orphans who arrived in Jamaica late last month will not be a burden to taxpayers. This comes in the wake of questions raised in the public domain about whether the Jamaican government will offset the cost of providing care to the children. Father Augustine, speaking with the news, said that private charity Haiti Children will continue to fund the care of the orphans. At the same time, Father Augustine said some Jamaicans and corporate entities have been donating to the children who fled their violence-torn country.
But we continue to seek and to ask people to get in touch with our head office, and you can give whatever you can. You know, it could be, as I say, it could be a roll of toilet paper. You know, we need everything from wheelchairs to toothbrushes. The area where they are wasn't built for 59 children. So we have to figure out how we move them around, how we integrate them into our different homes if possible. But the initial arrangement, by the way, is for a temporary stay. Temporary meaning if things get better in Haiti, which we don't know what's going to happen, they will go back to Haiti. But the arrangement is for a 2 to 3 year period. So during that time, as time goes on, we will determine, you know, again, based on their needs, based on their disability, we may move them into other homes that we have across the island.
Opposition questions a postponement of fare increase. Opposition spokesman on transport Michael Phillips has questioned the decision of the government to defer the 16% fare increase for transport operators, saying it further highlights the need for a national transport plan. The implementation of the fare increase was initially scheduled to take effect on Monday, but it has been delayed following a meeting last Thursday involving Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark, Transport Minister Darrell Vaz, and other officials, as well as members of the Transport Operators Steering Committee and other transport sector leaders. Dr. Clark explained the need to maintain inflation in single digit in order to keep the economy on course, noting that the transport sector has one of the largest impacts on inflation. Mr. Phillips says the transport sector is suffering due to lack of adequate action from the Transport Ministry. Transport groups will this week propose short-term incentives to the steering committee. There is no new data for implementation of the increase. Mr. Phillips also remains concerned about the reduction in JUTC fares despite the company operating at a loss.
We are now seeing our fourth Minister of Transport, and after 8 years, I'm still waiting on that national transport plan. We've just seen ad hoc movements. The minister himself opened up the licensing for hackney carriages in the KMTR months ago. When we asked what is the plan, why it is that you have done that, we have not been able to get an answer. And I think that the sector itself is suffering from not hearing about a plan on how it is that the government is going to save the investors that have invested in the sector itself, and how it is that we're going to offer something more to the commuters, seeing that the government has to dig deeper in its pocket to find an additional $1 billion on top of the $11 billion that they have to find for the JUTC. Even with the 100 buses that should come later on this year, will not save the JUTC as is now. And, you know, we still want to hear what that national plan is from the minister himself. Hopefully we'll hear something in the sectoral presentation.